Vini Henare.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Chair. Thank you for this opportunity. Tēnā tātou katoa. Mr. Chair, I rise to take a call on the Waitangi National Trust Board Amendment Bill in this committee stage. And in the second reading of the bill, Mr. Chair, I spoke to the House and confirmed in the House my whakapapa and its association to the Waitangi National Trust, Mr. Chair. So I take a pretty passionate view about the Waitangi National Trust and fully support its functions. In fact, hanging in my office, you might be interested, is a photo of my great-grandfather Tau Henare and Lord Bledisloe at the ceremony gifting the land to this country. So I'm pretty passionate about this, and there are some questions that I have about this bill. In the whole part, we support it. We support it. But I do have some questions, and one of those is about shortening or at least defining the length of service a board member can do. Now, for those who have already served over 9 years, and there are several members, what this particular bill is doing, Mr. Chair, is it will allow provision for them to either step down or to serve no more than 3 further years. Now, some might argue that that's a good point insofar as it keeps the board fresh, and it's this Māori expression of ka pū te ruha ka hau te rangatahi. It's about the old net is pushed to the side and the new net goes fishing. Yep, that has some merit to it, but what's not captured in that particular part, Mr. Chair, is that those people who have been serving for such a long time actually hold a lot of mana. They actually hold a lot of respect from the people who they have represented on this particular board. Now that ranges from those who descend directly from the families that are set out in this particular bill, but they also descend, some of those people in those positions, Mr. Chair, also come from other positions outside of those particular families. And one of those is, of course, Sir Tumu Te Heuheu, who I mentioned in the second reading of the bill, who has had a long association. Now, like I say, one might say, oh, well, he's past his use-by date, but I beg to differ, for he carries the mana of his ancestor who signed the Treaty of Waitangi, Te Iwikau, at the time of the signing of the Treaty of Waitangi in 1840. Now, you can't replace this. You can't replace this kind of knowledge, this institutional knowledge and right that these people carry down that's been handed down to them. So I do have a few questions still, Mr. Chair, about the length of service that a member on the board can do. But like I said, I do acknowledge that there is opportunity there for a bit of new blood and a bit of fresh thinking to be injected into the board. And sadly, for my part, that was really just a part of natural attrition and the loss of my father. But I still think that those particular positions should be kept, and that knowledge and institutional knowledge and the mana that they bring alongside it. Mr. Chair, my esteemed colleague here, Mr. Tiri Kartne, also spoke about those particular families who, by right of this bill, have descendants who have served on this particular bill. And I was part of some of the select committee discussions and debates about this particular bill, and I know there was some real strong debate about, well, if the Pākehā families have a representative for each whānau, then why should the Māori families be sort of lumped together? And there was some good debate, and I think we sort of come to a pretty fair conclusion. But I want to just look at the bill, Mr. Chair, on Part 1, 3A, and it says here, when the term of office of the representative member holding the position first held by Riri Maihi Kawiti ends in accordance with Section 10(2) of the Waitangi National Trust Amendment Act 2013, that position is disestablished and the board must appoint a representative, and goes on. And it goes on to say, a member of the family of Maihi Kawiti. Now, if you go back just a little bit further in that bill, Mr. Chair, you'll find that the seat that they're trying to disestablish was once held by Riri Maihi Kawiti. Now, in this particular bill, and according to our whakapapa, Riri Maihi Kawiti was the son of Maihi, and Maihi was the son of Kawiti, and they carry on the name like that. Therefore, his name was Riri Maihi Kawiti. And in this particular case, sir, they're going to get rid of that one. and they're going to appoint members from the families of Honeheke, Maihi Kawiti, Tāmati Wakanene. Mr. Chair? Oh, tēnā koe. Thank you again, Mr. Chair. And a member of the family of Tāmati Wakanene and a member of the family of Pōmare. Now, I wonder what kind of consideration was given to that, Mr. Chair, given that if you search the ancestral links of our ancestors, you'll find actually that Tāmati Wakanene and Pōmare, as well as Maihi Kawiti and Honeheke, were related. They were related. But we are thankful that in this particular bill, sir, that they'll continue the separate lines of Honeheke, Maihi Kawiti, Tāmati Wakanene and Pōmare. And I want to acknowledge one of the people who probably was the most vocal about this particular point, and that's my matua, tuakana on one side and matua on the other side. It's our Māori whakapapa work sometimes. But he was very vocal about the rights of the family from Pōmare, of which I too am a descendant of Pōmare, which I'm also a descendant of Kawiti and Nene. So I want to acknowledge that from Arapeta Hamilton. Mr. Chair, those appointments, when they come and they serve their particular length of time, and on this bill it says 9 years, 3 terms of 3 years, I wonder, Mr. Chair, if there was any thought by the government around the, succession planning, because what we found in the submissions and in the debate in the select committee was that, well, you know, it's actually not that easy to find those from those families who have the necessary skills, have the capabilities, and also possess the whakapapa to fill those positions on the board. I wonder if any thought was given to that. Mr. Chair, just in finishing up, just as it applies, Mr. Chair, to the Māori families I've already mentioned in terms of their service on the board, I want to pick up the point made by Mr. Tiri Kātene around the mana of the position of the Prime Minister and other the Governor General and the likes on the board. I think they are important because with their presence, and we've been fortunate in the past to have Sir Don McKinnon and others involved, but they actually bring a sense of honour and pride and patriotism from the wider New Zealand community, not only to want to visit the Waitangi National Trust, but in the operations of the Waitangi National Trust. So, you know, I'm a little bit disappointed that perhaps some of that kind of position will be lost, and we know that, I know, having gone to every Waitangi Day for my entire life, I've really enjoyed seeing them there. And it gives me a sense of pride that the government, as well as my tūpuna, are taking this particular responsibility seriously. In closing, Mr. Chair, I do want to say that I am slightly disappointed that Te Tiriti o Waitangi will not be returning home to the land of the Bay of Islands. However, the hope is still there amongst our people. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora. I call Catherine Delahunt.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker.